What do you see, or what do you believe as part of the Mars Society Australia is our future on that planet? Why the fascination?
Well, I think the reason why we're so fascinated with Mars is on several grounds. First of all, it's the only planet whose surface we can see clearly from the surface of the Earth.
Sometime in the next few decades, humans will leave this planet to live in another world.
That means that some people in our life can be the first Martians. How about that?
We're finding out a lot about how to explore Mars in our station. Over 1,000 people from over 40 countries have actually participated in one crew or another.
It's the grandest adventure I could possibly imagine. That is, for me, the most important reason why we should pursue the establishment of life on Mars.
If we go to Mars in our time, 200 years from now, there'll be new branches of human civilization on Mars.
Hi, I'm Josh Keegan and welcome to this episode of The Space Down Under. If you're new here, The Space Down Under is all about shining a light on the Southern Hemisphere's very active and ever-evolving space industry. And because I'm an Australian, I like to focus on what's happening in the Australian space industry. In this episode, in particular, it's all about Australia's involvement with Mars. Yep, you heard me right. We have our very own Mars Society, unique to Australia and linked to the larger Mars Society, part of a worldwide group of associations, all founded by Robert Zubrin in 1997. The Mars Society has links to almost every space agency in the world and boasts one of the most iconic members, Elon Musk. I got a chance to speak with Jon Clarke, the President of the Mars Society Australia. In this very broad-ranging and eye-opening interview with Jon, I managed to find out how growing up in the Apollo era, Jon dreamt of being an astronomer and due to lacking some skills in maths, became a geologist instead. In the end though, a love of astronomy has still led him to become the President of the Mars Society Australia. How the Mars Society started and how it grew to become a global worldwide group. We explore the fascination behind the red planet and how it has haunted our dreams for centuries. We also take a quick look at the robotic exploration in the 20th century and how it has provided us with even more reasons to go to Mars rather than less. Then we managed to go more in depth with what everyday Australians and the Mars Society Australia are doing to further research into the red planet. As always, I've placed some timestamps in the description below, just in case you'd like to skip ahead. This interview was recorded in 2020, and as the pandemic has impacted everyone, it impacted me too, in ways I honestly did not expect. What this now means is I have a backlog of videos from 2020, which I'll now be releasing over the next few weeks. Remember, now's the time to hit that subscribe button. You've got to smack that subscribe button like you would if your rocket has wandered off nominal and needs to be brought down before it hurts anyone. It's time to grab a cup of coffee or at least your favorite beverage and let's get started.
Lockdown.
Jon, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, good morning. What can I say? I'm a geologist by training.
Yep.
I've spent most of my career working as a geologist. This has covered working for the government in geological surveys, working in a number of different companies in exploration for minerals and energy resources, and also teaching at university. So I sort of covered most of the bases, as it were, in the geological career.
Okay.
I've been interested in Mars since childhood, and space exploration. Grew up in the Apollo era. I can remember that, the first robotic missions, or some of the first robotic missions to the moon, and so on. So I've always been interested in space. At one stage, I wanted to become an astronomer, and it wasn't really till I was sort of 16 that the sad truth struck me. I couldn't be an astronomer because my mathematics just wasn't good enough. But then I discovered geology and thought, well, I can always study the planet I live on. And then by a circular route that led to being interested in Mars and being able through the Mars Society Australia, to be able to take part in Mars research and development and public engagement. And here I am.
Excellent. So the question would be now, what is the Mars Society Australia? I only recently found out about this from an interview with Dianne, so that was only just recently. So what exactly does the Mars Society Australia do?
Well, we do lots of things on very little. There's a worldwide network of Mars societies. It started in the US in the late 90s by a visionary aerospace engineer called Robert Zubrin, and still has a very strong presence in the US. And the Mars Society is meant to be a association of international organizations with a common vision of human presence on Mars. It includes exploration, it includes observing Mars from ground-based instruments. It includes public awareness of the role that Mars plays in the human future, but particularly in terms of direct human presence on the surface of Mars and exploring its potential for ultimate human settlement.
What role does Mars play in our future? I mean, Elon Musk is certainly heading towards Mars. Robert Zubrin, as you said, rightly so, is interested in Mars. What do you see, or what do you believe as part of the Mars Society Australia is our future on that planet? Why the fascination?
Well, I think the reason why we're so fascinated with Mars is on several grounds. First of all, it's the only planet whose surface we can see clearly from the surface of the Earth. So starting with the astronomer Christian Huygens back in the 17th century, I think it was, people realized that you could actually see markings on the surface of Mars that rotated with the planet, that weren't clouds, and even start seeing seasons as the polar caps waxed and waned over time. And because of that, second only to the moon, it became a location more than any other in the solar system that people could imagine perhaps life there, both in terms of things living there, but also what it would be like to live there, the possibility that beings might come from Mars, and that humans, and remember this is a long time before balloons, let alone aircraft or spacecraft, might actually one day be able to travel there. So it became a theatre for reflecting on the human condition, a place that was a frontier for imagination. If you go back to the earliest human novels and stories about adventures, we always placed them in remote and out of the way places. So in Journey to the West, the Chinese writer postulated a group of people traveling from China to India. Homer in the Odyssey had people traveling around the Mediterranean. And of course, as we explore the Earth more and more, these places end up being Africa or the jungles of South America or Antarctica. And by the 20th century, these places were all sufficiently well known not to be able to grab our imaginations as places of exotic adventure. And we started writing about going to the moon, going to Mars, and going beyond. And the thing about Mars is that as we have studied it, as we have explored it with robotic spacecraft, it remains a planet where it is possible for humans to walk around on the surface, wearing environment suits for sure. It is a place where, using appropriate technology, we could actually live off the land, providing water and oxygen and food and some of the basic essentials of technology, of the settlement, by using local materials to construct stations and so on. So it's the most habitable place in our solar system. If we can learn to live on Mars, as we could on the moon, then potentially humanity can spread throughout the solar system to the moons of Jupiter, to the moons of Saturn and beyond. And if we can't, then okay, our future is earthbound. And I think that's a very important question for humanity to consider. Are we going to become a multi-planet species or not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the fundamental questions. So, just coming back to it a little bit, the one of the things that really gets me excited is that you guys are here in Australia and you're doing magnificent things here in Australia. Can you tell me some of the things that the Mars Society Australia is doing right now in this country to actually forward our endeavour, the future endeavour or vision to get to Mars? What is it you guys are doing right now?
Well, we have a number of projects that we're working on. Late last year, we sent 2 groups over to the US to spend time at the Mars Desert Research Station. This is a facility that mimics an early Mars base, early Mars station, and they did a wide range of research projects there. They looked at did geological work. They also studied things like food waste and its recycling. There was someone who's doing a PhD, Dianne McGrath, in Melbourne, who's doing a PhD on food waste recycling, and so she used this as a part of a data set for a PhD. Right. There's also Jennifer Lane from a university in Western Australia, who's actually studying the design of Mars habitats from an architectural perspective. And so being actually able to live in a simulated Mars station, again, gave her very valuable data for her own research. So this is one of the things we do. We provide platforms where people who may be associated with us, but who aren't actually members, can use to do their own research.
Wow.
And we had a number of MSA members who are actually planning the whole expedition and so on. And this facility is run by the US Mars Society, and it's been run for 18 years, and they've had several thousand people go through it. So it's a tremendous international facility. We're hoping to go back in the near future. We were going to go back this year until the pandemic, but hopefully next year we'll be heading back there. So that's one of the things we do. Another thing we're working on is MarsQ. And this is
what's that?
One of our members here in Canberra, Steve Hobbs. He's did his PhD in studying Martian gullies as a geomorphologist. He's now doing a master's in aerospace engineering, and he's been very interested in developing the technology of the small rovers, robotic rovers. So about his current one he calls the A4 rover, which is about this big, size of an A4 sheet of paper.
Yep.
And not just building the little vehicle, which can be driven around, but actually the sort of sensors on it that will enable it to have a useful scientific research program. And he's now moved into testing the instruments for that on balloon flights. So a few weeks ago, we had a 3rd balloon flight. So there's a company called Thunderstruck, that's based in Sydney, that does
Robert Brand. I'm in contact with him. Yes.
And, he's one of our members, and he's flown several payloads for us. We've had 3 flights in total, taking up instruments and control systems up into a near Mars-like environment. 30 kilometers up there. The upper atmosphere, the Earth's stratosphere, is essentially Mars-like. It's the pressure, the density of the atmosphere, the temperatures, the ultraviolet levels, the cosmic radiation levels are all analogous to what we find on the surface of Mars. So if you build something that'll work hanging off a balloon in the stratosphere at 30 kilometers or higher, it'll work on the surface of Mars. So we're testing out these things. We've got people working on books about the role of Mars in the human imagination. Colin Payne, who's a retired geomorphologist and a member in Melbourne, has been editing a book with contributions from people from all over Australia and overseas, illustrated by artwork by Steve Hobbs, who, in addition to being a geomorphologist and an engineer, is also an exhibited space artist. So a bit of a Renaissance man.
It just because art plays an important role in space exploration as well, because the NASA JPL images that they did on the future exploration is certainly one of them. So just the other thing is, I was having a look around on your website and I saw something about a pod, a Martian pod. What's that about?
Okay, I think you might be talking about the Mars Oz research station.
That's it. Yes. That's probably it.
Okay, I mentioned the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah, and that's an analog station. So it's made out of normal materials, wood and steel and so on, but it looks like and is laid out like inside what you'd expect an initial Mars mission to resemble. So the Mars Oz Station is our project to build a similar facility here in Australia. We're looking at a different design though. The Mars Desert Research Station is sort of a bit like a, well, what's this? A vapor rub jar or a tuna can, we call it, which which is sort of sitting on the surface, just the sort of shape that we landed by retropropulsion on the surface of Mars, and it now has a number of satellite buildings. And NDRS is 8 meters high, 8 meters across, 2 decks. I've lived in it for 3 months, as have several other MSA people, part of a long duration study that was done back in 2016. But we'd like to do this sort of work in Australia as well. First of all, it's a lot cheaper to work in Australia than it is to go to the US. And there's also people in our geographic neighborhood who would, again, find it easier and cheaper to come work in Australia for a few weeks or a few months than to go all the way to the US. For the last 18 years, we're working on the station, and our big challenge has been the fact we have not obtained funding for it. We have a different design. It's more like here's a small model of what it would look like. This is a detachable garage. This will be the docking adapter, and this will sit on the. Get my hand to the right hand. This will sit on the surface like that, so it'll land more like a Harrier jet rather than something sitting on its tail. And we think this design is much more practical for living in than a tuna can, which is a bit like living inside a lighthouse, to be honest.
So, just with that maker, that model mock-up you've got there, does that actually have heat shielding on the underside? Is that what that black component was?
Yeah, the black the black material is intended to represent the thermal tiles or heat shielding. So it would fly in like a space shuttle without wings, belly first, and then when it's sufficiently braked, either purely by rocket thrust or with a combination of rockets and parachutes, it would just descend vertically again like a Harrier would and sit on the surface of Mars.
Wow, that's an amazing design.
Yeah. Look, it's not unique to us. I mean, there's been, although most rockets that you see, landers that you see illustrated are sitting on their tails, there's actually been quite a few approaches that have used this horizontal landing for a range of reasons. Partly because if you're going to land something of any size on Mars, it needs to be fairly high lift to slow down efficiently. Which means coming in belly first like a space shuttle, that actually generates lift. Some designs have then sort of gone into a sort of a zoom of death and then descended vertically, but that's just silly in my view. And it's much easier to just simply pop out your parachutes if you're using them, or simply use your rockets, landing rockets, which should be under here to slow down and then descend like that.
It seems like the Mars Society Australia has it all going on. So I took a moment to ask Jon, what's the biggest need that you have at the moment?
I think our biggest needs are more members. Our main income is actually from membership subscription. And also we need substantial funding to build things like the Mars Oz Research Station, which would cost about $1.5 million. I mean, we've had the designs go out for tender, so we're fairly confident on these numbers. And up to now, we haven't been successful in raising that money. We've tried just about everything. At present, Australia is moving into having a actual space agency, and in fact, doing human-related space research, planetary-related space research. So the current head of the space agency, Dr. Jon Clarke, who I actually worked for back in the days when we were both with a mining company, Western Mining, has certainly spoken out in favour of human-related space research in Australia, particularly from a biomedical technology perspective. And I think, if there are donors out there, if there are people who are really good at crowdfunding, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fantastic. So, well, the bit that's really exciting for me is this is all being done right here in this country, which is absolutely fantastic. absolutely am thrilled to know that the real world research is being conducted here in Australia to actually get us to Mars. I also want to find out more about collaborations with other organisations, and I was surprised to find out about the Astrobiology program set up at Amity University in Mumbai, India.
Yeah, some of us are collaborating with Amity University in Mumbai in India with running a biology course. So one of our directors, Dr. Siddharth Pandey, who's a UNSW graduate, has set up an astrobiology program at Amity University, which is a network of private universities in India, to bring in both short undergraduate and also eventually master postgraduate courses in astrobiology. So this has just been running for the last 12 months. So very early stages. Some of us, Annalea, Beattie, and also myself, have been over there to lecture, and we're also doing online lecturing at present under the current pandemic. But we hope to go back there when all of this is over and build on developing the Indian astrobiology program, which is still in its infancy. But like Australia, they have a lot of very, very good people who, before any official interest, had been working in astrobiology in collaboration with people in Europe, people with NASA, in Russia and Japan, and so on. So it's and in China as well, for that matter. So building international networks and collaboration is part of what we do, and I think it's very important at this, the current time where people seem to be spending far more time trying to blame other countries for their problems rather than working together as they should be.
Yeah, exactly that. Space is for everyone, and we all, if we can't all go together, then we shouldn't go at all. Is my opinion. We all need to make it a united front, because together we're going to achieve so much more than doing it all separately. Well, thanks very much for your time today, there, John. It's been absolutely fantastic, and it's been a fascinating insight. And I'm just so happy that this sort of stuff is happening right here in Australia. If you're interested in joining the Mars Society Australia, I've placed all the links below, so you can contribute to a number of wide-ranging initiatives which will end when people are finally on Mars. If you're interested in becoming an investor or a benefactor for the Mars Society Australia, I've also placed links below on how you can get in contact with John. Keep in mind, any private investment or even your ongoing membership helps to get Australians closer to living and working on the Red Planet. If you like this video and you want to see more, then hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, remember to click on that bell so you are notified each time I upload a new video. I have lots more coming up that you should not miss out on. There's more around aerospace, drones, technology, and of course, coffee. If there's anything you'd like to see on joshkeegan.com, please let me know in the comments below. And if you work in the Australian space industry, I'd love to chat with you. Please remember to reach out and get in touch through the contact page on joshkeegan.com. If you'd like to chat with other like-minded people about the Australian space industry, you can now have a conversation on my new subreddit page, r/the Space Down Under. And in case you didn't know, I have a shop where you can purchase your very own Space Down Under mug and tea at shop.joshkeegan.com. All of my merchandise is sourced and printed locally right here in Australia and drop shipped directly to you from the print bar. Each purchase you make of my merchandise, I get a small commission from each sale, so you are directly supporting me. If you want to support me, but you'd love to skip the merchandise, then you can check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/joshkeegan. The support of my patrons allows me to continue making these videos, whilst also having an input on new things like merchandise or getting a first look at upcoming videos I have planned. Thanks very much for watching The Space Down Under, and remember, stay caffeinated.